you don't know me, my name is Jacob. To Abigail, one of the other pastors that was just up here, and it's good to see you. I haven't seen you in 2025, so good to see you this year. How's it treating you so far? 5 days in, are we okay? We are like 1/4 way through the century, which I don't know if that's an ominous thought or not. We're going. This will be the quarter century mark at the end of this year. So here we are. We've made it to 2025. Everybody's good. Wasn't last Sunday, like Abigail said, was so much fun. Ending 2024, eating breakfast burritos and playing games and worshiping together, and then breaking out in like spontaneous Beatles concert. If you weren't here, if you didn't hang around for the Beatles music at the end, it was pretty epic. I was thinking, Acts 2. Feels so much, those kind of Sundays like last Sunday just feel so close to Acts 2 and what we read about in Acts 2 when we read about the early church and how the early church gathered. And so I'll take a little liberty, but I was thinking through Acts 2 verse 46 that says, every day they continued to meet together in the temple courts and in parking lots and in upstairs whatever kind of building this is, I don't know. It says they broke bread and breakfast burritos, and they ate together with glad and sincere hearts, and they played Filipino games with family from Manila that were so much fun, and then they praised God and enjoyed Beatles music in the favor of all people. And then it says, and the Lord added to their number daily those who were being saved. I'm like, may it be so this year, right? We're just going to continue to do that kind of stuff and gather, and we'll be outside again soon enough, and we'll be eating again soon enough, and we'll be around tables in February and beyond. You know we will. And so just was thinking about that as I reflected on last week and the end of 2024. So today we're going to begin a new year together. And we're going to actually begin a new year by kind of going back to last year and taking a look back, which will kind of like set us up for springing forward into 2025. If you are new here, this is your first time, or you've just never, a new season here, I don't know, or if you've never been here for the first Sunday of whatever year it was, for I guess the last 10 or so years, what I'm about to embark upon begs a little explanation. And so if you've been around a while, you're like, yeah, we know. But if you've never been here, let me explain what's going to happen here. I checked my files, like I said, and it was back at the end of 2015. Yes, 10 years ago, if you can believe it, at the end of 2015. I was sitting there, and a lot of pastors at the end of the year who do what we do and who preach and who teach, you get to the end of the year and you get through Christmas, and then there's usually that one Sunday or the beginning of a new year, and you're like, how do we top that, right? Like Christmas is kind of the apex, and you kind of get there, and Christmas Eve and all of that. And so I don't know if 10 years ago I was sitting there like, what on earth? And I got inspired 10 years ago to preach a sermon. And I thought, I'm going to preach a sermon in conversation with a particular Silicon Valley tech giant, like you do, right? I'm like, well, why don't we try that? Let's have a conversation, me and this like tech giant, and I'll preach a sermon in this kind of this conversational thing. And my vision then, 10 years ago, my vision was to craft a sermon. It's kind of like a biblical reflection, a theological reflection, whatever you want to say, a conversation, after doing a little year-end cultural analysis, kind of like taking the pulse of our world, taking the pulse of our culture, asking the big questions, like what are people looking for in our world? What are people searching for? Those big, what are the questions that like people are asking? And so I thought that a place to start would be with a company whose mission, according to their website, I'll put it up here, here's their mission, and it's quite simply to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. Of course, this is the mission statement of a little-known Silicon Valley tech company known as Google. And assuming that you've heard of them and some of what they do. If you don't know much about Google, created in 1995, by these two guys, Sergey Brin and Larry Page, and they created Google in their Stanford dorm room. So they whipped up this idea. I think they were graduate students at Stanford, and for their project, they thought, we'll create a website. Maybe it'll go somewhere. We don't know. Turns out they were rather successful in what they did. That was 10 years ago. And so for the past 10 years, we have begun, as a church, the first Sunday of every year. I did this 10 years ago, and then it just kind of stuck. And now I can't get rid of it. And it's like stuck to me. And so I've begun every year by having this conversation at the year end with Google. And like Abigail said, we've been calling it Googling. Instead of ringing in the new year, we've been calling it Googling in the new year. So this is Googling in 2025, if you're counting. Well, this past week, I thought that after 10 years of doing this, I thought it was high time. I thought it was about time that I pay Sergey and Larry a visit. And so after church last Sunday, I thought, I need to talk to those two. If we're going to do this 10 years, we need to go big or go home. And so last Sunday, true story, last Sunday, after breakfast burritos and Filipino games and Beatles music, a few of the kids, the ones, is this thing cutting out? All right, we're going to go handheld. There we go. Is that one better? Yes? Oh. Hello, hello. Oh, there we go. So last Sunday, the Gaineses who were well, which was 4 out of the 6 of us, got in our car, and we drove up to San Francisco. And I thought, and I headed to one of their offices, that one particular office downtown, and alas, they were unavailable. Sergey and I found, when I got there, that Larry and Sergey were not taking visitors. They did not have the time. I wanted to tell them what we've been doing for the last 10 years and saying, I've been having a conversation with you and preaching a sermon at a little church in LA County for the last 10 years. I think you should know about this. And they didn't want to know. So anyhow, we decided in lieu of that, since they were unavailable, Henry and I decided we'd go to Monday Night Football instead. And so we said enough with Google. We're going to go to Levi's Stadium. And we wish we had Joe Veloso with us, who's wearing his Niners gear now. But we went instead and had a wonderful time. We had an absolute blast up at Monday Night Football on Monday night, which was honestly the real reason we were going to San Francisco. And the Google thing and trying to get a meeting with them was just an aside. But anyhow, that said, my assumption is the vast majority of us in the room today use Google products, don't we? I'm just going in with this assumption that most of us at one point or another, here are just some of the products they offer, just a sampling of the products that they offer. Most of us on a daily basis are interacting with Google. I would likely, I'm going to wager a bet, and I'd go out on a very large limb to say most of us multiple times a day are interacting with Google products. I'm going to go out on an even larger limb and say some of you are doing this right now, aren't you? You have a Google product, some of you, in your hand. If you have an Android phone, or you have one, some of you have one of their products in your hand, or I don't know, some of you, if you're new here, maybe you found us today using one of their products, one of their you went into Google Maps, or whatever it is. So whether you use Gmail, or Google Maps, or like I said, you have an Android phone made by Google, or you have a Chromebook, or you want to get a flight somewhere. How many of you use Google Flights? You just plug it in, like where you want to go, and they give you the best price for a flight so you can book travel. How many of us use Google Drive, and we save? Most of our lives are now saved. Most of our working documents in education and business and photos. How many of you have every photo saved by Google somewhere in a cloud somewhere? Up to 23,000 different photos and videos that Google has somewhere. I don't know where it is. They say it's in a cloud, but they're using Google Drive. Google Docs. I'm using Google Docs right now as I'm staring at an iPad with a Google Doc up with the notes that I'm sharing, some of these things that I'm sharing with you. If you watch YouTube videos, then you are consuming what? A product owned by Google. What does that mean? What does this mean? This is just a statement of reality. I'm not saying something good or bad, but I will say this. It means that Google plays a rather
large role in steering, organizing, directing, and informing our lives, doesn't it? This company is playing a massive role in our lives. Again, that's just a statement of reality. That is neither good nor bad. I'm not making it, it's not a judgment statement. I'm just calling out what is. We, the consumer, we have a certain dependence, do we not? We have a certain dependence on the products that they create for us. I mean, how many of you would be absolutely like, how did we get around without Google Maps? How many of you remember the Thomas Guide? And you actually carried around this like phone book type thing, and you flip through it to try to find ways to go. And it's like, how did you know if there was traffic or not? And how did we communicate? All of it, think about all of the ways that we now are so dependent on Google. And if you take that thought a step further, that's one step. Now let's take that same thought a step further. What else does it mean? Because on one level, that's just basically what it means. I would say on another level, it means that this particular Silicon Valley tech giant has a fair amount of power and influence over our lives, don't they? It's just a statement of reality. They are influencing their algorithms and what they are giving us from when we search for information. They are wielding a certain type of power, right? And a certain type of influences over the choices we make. You're like what? Like how you're going to get from point A to point B, right? You're like, how am I going to get there? They're going to tell you how to get there. What should I buy? You can go under their shop. I use their shopping thing when I just put in a product and I hit click on shopping, and it tells me, it gives me a list of 500 different items that I can buy and how much they're going to cost. They're influencing how I spend my money, how I'm getting from there to there, what I'm watching, what I'm consuming. The list is just endless, isn't it? Influence, power, attention. They are holding our attention, as it were. Well, over the years, Google has evolved into many of the things that you see behind me. But most of us were just first introduced back in the late 90s. We were introduced to Google as a what? It was really only one thing. It was this. It was a search engine. It was a way to search for information, to ask questions, to search this new thing called the internet. And that's how most of us were introduced to Google, as a way to access information on the internet. And so, my working theory is, if anyone would know the questions that humans are asking and what we humans are searching for, it would be who? It would be Google. They would have to know, because they have this is kind of what they do. They have a market share, a corner on the market in this particular area. And each year they do this. Each year, at the end of every year, Google has this little corner of their website called Google Trends, in which they kind of hold all of this data, and they give us a window into what is the world searching for? What are the questions that people are asking? What are people looking for on almost every level? And so for the next few minutes, we're just going to kind of open the window a little bit. We're going to take a peek into some of the trends from 2024. This is just raw data. You can access this right now on your smartphone if you want. Don't do it now, though. Just keep your attention here, because it'll take you a million other places, and pretty soon you'll be shopping and looking at photos and doing all sorts of things. But I'm going to show you just a few of them, and then what they do. At the end of this will just be the data. Google every year puts out a video called the Year in Search, in which they take all the data from that year and they try to whittle it down to one theme. Like, what is the one theme for that particular year? And they mush it all together in like a 3 or 4 minute video. And so I'm going to show you that video, and then whatever that theme is, I'm going to preach on that theme, and I will offer biblical reflection on whatever Google tells me, power and influence, whatever they tell me that the theme for 2024 was. So here's some of the data. I thought we'd start here. These are what you and I are searching for, or the questions that we are asking. Let's start with the most searched recipes. For those of you who are searching for recipes, you're like, what recipes are we humans searching for? I narrowed this down just to our country. You can pretty much put any country in the world in here, or you can go global. So here are the top 5. I'll just give you the top 5 most searched recipes. Number 5 was dense bean salad. How many of you, you're like, the number of times I Googled dense bean salad in 2024. But that was the recipe, the number 5 recipe that people were searching for. And now some of you are looking at that and thinking, maybe for lunch, I'll try a dense bean salad. Those beans look very what? Thank you. All right, number 4. and number 4, I think she got some help from her son and maybe her son's girlfriend. It was Mama Kelsey cookies. Mama Kelsey's cookies. That was the number 4. Apparently she has a very, is it Jason and what's the other Kelsey? Yeah, Travis Kelsey, plays for the Chiefs. His mom, that's his mom, and he's dating Taylor Swift apparently, so I think, like I said, she probably got some help and put her on the map. She was the number 4. Everyone's looking how to make her chocolate, so if you want her recipe for chocolate chip cookies, you can Google it and find it. Number 3, I have no idea who this is. Maybe some of you do, and I don't know if I'm going to say her name right. Is it Tiny's Mac and Cheese? Teeny's, thank you. Some people knew that. You've actually Googled it. Teeny's Mac and Cheese. I don't know who Teeny is, but apparently she has a killer mac and cheese recipe, and a lot of people were looking for it. So that was the number 3 recipe for 2024. Number 2, I had no idea what this was, so I had to look up the definition of what this was. Tanghulu? Tanghulu, a Chinese dessert, was the second most Googled recipe. Tanghulu, it's candied fruit on a skewer. So there you go, Tanghulu. And the number 1 recipe, some of you are like, I know what it is. The number 1 recipe of 2024 that people were searching for was Olympic chocolate muffins. Apparently that was a thing during the Olympics. I don't know, but those look delicious. And so somebody make them for our next breakfast on the block. And say, maybe we should bring all 5 of those for the next breakfast on the block. Who's bringing the dense bean salad, the mac and cheese, the chocolate chip cookie, Mama Kelsey's cookies, and the chocolate muffin? And the Tanghulu, don't forget that. Those look delicious. All right, I got to pick up the pace here. We'll never get to the actual biblical reflection piece. Let's just do the most searched. These are in our country, the US of A, the most trending searches of the year. Like, what were Americans, what were they Googling? What were they looking for information on? And then I'll do the same thing and I'll blow it up worldwide, and we'll compare our country to the rest of the world. So here they are, top 5. Number 5 was Kamala Harris. An election year, not a surprise. Number 5 was Kamala Harris. Number 4, the New York Yankees. People were searching in our country. They wanted to know about the Yankees, primarily how they blew such a big lead in this, was it the 5th or 6th game, a 5-run lead in 1 inning. People wanted to know, how did the Yankees have an epic meltdown and lose to the Dodgers this year? But that was the number 4 search. Number 3 in our country was this, connections. I don't know if anybody, I guess it's a game in the New York Times. A few years ago, the word of the year was Wordle. Remember when that went around? And this year, it was all about connections. So connections was number 3. Number 2 was Donald Trump. And that was the second most searched, what people were searching for, a name was Donald Trump. And maybe Google is telling us something about how we do, how we vote based on, you could actually go to Google's data to see how elections are going to turn out. And then the number 1 most Googled word of the year, anybody think they know what it is? Election. That was it. Just the word election. All right, so that's our country. Those are the 5 things. Now, if you do this, if you change their little thing on their trending website to the whole world, what were the 5 most searched trending topics in the globe? Was it any of those 5? We'll see. So these are the most 5 searched globally. Number 5 was Liam Payne, who died tragically this year, was a boy band member, I believe, of a British pop boy band. Liam Payne was the 5th most, in the whole world, people were searching, they wanted to know about this guy. Number 4, India versus England in a cricket match was the fourth most Googled term or phrase on the planet this year. England versus India. How many of you totally missed that one? You're like, I missed that cricket match. Number 3, ICC Men's T20 World Cup, which is a cricket tournament that featured India versus England. How many of you missed that one too? The third most global, this are in the world. This is what people are Googling around our planet. Cricket. Number 2, UEFA European Championship, which stands for the Union of European Football Association. That was a soccer tournament that the world was searching for. And the number 1 most searched phrase on our planet in 2024, what do you think it was? Copa America, which is another soccer tournament that happens on this half of the hemisphere. And so while our country was obsessed with politicians and elections, the rest of the world is like, we could care less. All we're caring about is what? Cricket and soccer. The rest of the planet was saying, for us, it's all about cricket and soccer. So there you go. That's all I'm going to show you for now. That's just a little bit about what the world is searching for. And for now what I want to do is I want to show you a short video, and that will guide us for about a 10 or 15 minute biblical reflection on whatever Google now tells me was the most kind of a theme for 2024. So here is Google's Year in Search video, where they take us on a tour of what the world is searching for. So did they do it? Was that 2024? Some of you, that's like emotional, isn't it? I don't know why every year that evokes emotion in people at a certain level. It was quite a year. And the theme, if you didn't catch it, the theme that Google chose this year was breakout, was the theme. Apparently, it was a year of breakouts. And I don't know about you, I totally missed the Pickles and Dr. Pepper breakout. Anyone else? I was like, when I saw that, I was like, I missed that one. Maybe you got in on the Pickles and Dr. Pepper breakout phenomena. Some of you are actually having an existential crisis right now because you're like, I think I missed every breakout of 2024 because I don't know what any of that was. And it seemed to be important, but for some of us, we're like, country music became popular in 2024, or a hippo? Some of you missed the hippo. Now, if you've missed Bluey, you need to get in that one right now. If you're missing Bluey and that whole thing, you should be watching Bluey. Caitlin Clark, you didn't miss Caitlin Clark, did you? Breakout phenomena of the year. And of hopefully the Olympics, right? You didn't miss that. Well, agree or disagree, Google, which, by the way, still holds 90% of the market share on all internet searches in the world. If you own 90% of a market share in any sector, you've got power and influence. That's what they're telling us. They're like, this is what people are searching for. Breakouts. They began the video by saying they captivated millions. They had the entire world searching, and they became a breakout search. And then they ended the video with, to the breakouts we didn't see coming, and the ones we won't forget, search on. So for just the last few minutes, a few biblical theological reflections on the breakouts that apparently we are all searching for, because I happen to think Google is onto something. I think they've tapped into something with this theme, if we think about it on a slightly deeper level. First thing, though, is what's a breakout? In the sense that, because breakout can mean a few different things, right? Depending on whether you're using it as a noun or an adjective. What is a breakout in the sense that Google is using it? And so if you Google the word breakout, which, oh, the irony of that, right? But if you actually Google the definition of the word breakout, here's what you will find. A breakout, they will tell you that a breakout is when a person becomes suddenly and extremely popular or successful. If you do a little deeper dive and you go a little further down in their search thing there, they'll say that a breakout denotes sudden or overwhelming success especially in comparison with your previous efforts. There's this sense that, like, you've been doing something for quite a long time, right? You've been doing whatever it is. You've been doing something, you've been trying something, you've been practicing something, you've been competing at something, you've been making something, creating something. You've been at something, but then in a rather short amount of time, you have a what? Breakout of sudden success. Like, it just clicks. It works. It all comes together in like this one moment at this right time, and you experience unexpected sometimes success. And so in the video, they show this girl. You see this girl that some of you have no idea who she is, and she's in a park, and she's playing the keyboard and singing a rather simple song in front of, what, a few dozen people at a local park? I mean, this could be anywhere around here, right? She's at a park, and she's playing this simple song, and then it cuts, and by most metrics, when you look at this part of the video, you would not say she's being very successful, right? And then the video cuts to the next thing, and it's the same girl, and she's not in a local park. She's performing, and I don't know if you could hear the narration, it said, in front of the biggest crowd in festival history. I don't know what festival this was, and the voice says, and it takes 10 years to become an overnight sensation. And if you don't know who she is, she's a 26-year-old from Willard, Missouri. Her name is Kaylee Amstutz, better known as Chapel Roan. And my assumption is, this is the town she's from. Here's Willard. If you want to know where Willard, Missouri is, it's a suburb of Springfield, Missouri. If you go to Google Maps and you put in Willard, Missouri, I'm just being consistent here all the way through this message. That's what the first picture of Willard, Missouri that will pop up. This is where she's from, and yet my assumption is that for that girl, she'd been writing songs for quite some time. Like, she just didn't start this year. If she was here and we could interview her, I bet that way before 26, she'd been writing songs, she'd been taking piano lessons, she'd been playing that keyboard, probably performing at maybe the local parks and her local Willard High School talent show, whatever it was, as a teenager. She was just kind of doing the stuff, you know, trying to make it in the music industry, and yet this year she had a what? A breakout. And all of a sudden, she's not playing local parks. She's on, was that her being interviewed by Jimmy Fallon at the beginning? She's being interviewed, she's on The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon, and she's playing in front of the biggest crowds in festival history, all this year. Same girl. She had a breakout. And then the video cuts to this guy, and it cuts to this kid, and he's doing a gymnastics routine in front of hundreds of millions of people watching this thing live. And I don't know if you remember that. I remember watching this. It all came down, like the hopes of the entire United States men's gymnastics team came down to this one pommel horse routine that he had to pull off. And he does it, right? And he pulls this off, and they win an Olympic medal. And if you don't know who he is, here he is, Stephen Nedorosik, another 26-year-old from Worcester, Massachusetts, who, let's be honest, how many of you had no idea who this was a year ago today? You're like, I have no idea who this is. You'd never seen him on a pommel horse, had you? Some of you hadn't even now. You're like, that was the first pommel horse routine. I'm like, who is this guy? He kind of became famous for his nerdy glasses and hair. And everybody was like, who is this kind of nerdy kid who wore these? He had to take the glasses off to do the pommel horse routine. But here's my assumption. I bet Stephen had been doing pommel horse a few times before that performance in front of hundreds of millions in the Olympics. I mean, how much practice did this kid go through? How many just like ordinary days of getting up at 5 a.m. and going to the gym and doing a pommel horse routine? How many times did you just absolutely fail at this? And he just like fell off the horse or, you know, stumbled on the dismount. And yet, on the biggest stage, in front of hundreds of millions, with his entire hopes of his whole country riding on this one, he had a sudden burst of success. He had a breakout. And he had this amazing success. Both of these two had breakout years in different kinds of ways, but I would say, but for both, their sudden success came, get this, after years and years and years of just relative obscurity, right? Dozens and dozens and dozens of just ordinary days, of just getting up and going to piano lessons and writing another song, and I guess I'll go do gymnastics again today, and just kind of doing the stuff, doing the routine, untold hours of practice, probably some successes, and a lot of what? A lot of failure, a lot of falls, a lot of, no, I'm sorry, not this time, a lot of rejection, maybe missing the cut, whatever it might be. And I don't know about you, but I think that's just kind of how it works. I just think that's how it works for us too. You and I have a lot of just ordinary days, don't we? A lot of just being faithful, getting up and doing the stuff, showing up again, being faithful, doing what we feel called to do. I don't know about you, but for most of us, that's just like a lot of life. It's just being faithful in the little things. And my working assumption in conjunction with Google, though, is that most of us in this room today would welcome a breakthrough or a breakout, right? And a breakthrough. But we would welcome sudden success, wouldn't we? In so many areas of our lives. Many of us right now, we're waiting for a breakout, right? We're waiting for it's like, in comparison to what we've previously done and all of our efforts and what we've been trying to do, and you could put this in any area of your life, for most of us today, we would just welcome this. We'd be like, I'd take a breakout right now. To break out of a routine, a rut, somewhere I feel stalled in life, somewhere I'm just feeling frustrated, somewhere where I just feel like a failure, somewhere where I keep trying and it's not working out. Most of us would welcome that. We all want a breakout. And if I told you that this year, 2025, if I told you that this year you were going to experience overwhelming success in comparison with everything you've previously done before, most of us would be like, I'll take that. I mean, those of you who own a business, if I told you it's going to be a breakout year for your business, you'd be like, yep, that's kind of the point, right? I want to grow this business. It's going to be a breakout year. You'd take overwhelming success when it comes to your business or what you're trying to do. If you're a student, imagine if I told you you're going to have a breakout year as a student this year and where you in an area that you've struggled or a place that you've struggled academically. It's not going to be so much so this year. You're going to have success in that area. Most of us as students would be like, yes, I'll take it. I'll take that. Or in a relationship, think about a relationship that's been difficult for you. You're like, I would take success in that relationship this year. Or in a family dynamic where you just feel like a failure. Most of us would be like, I'd love a breakout year. I'd love this to be my year where I finally say, that was the year something changed. Something turned. And really what we're all searching for is what? Success. We want what we are doing to matter. And we want who we are and what we are doing to be meaningful, to contribute, right, in a positive way. Well, we spent the bulk of the end of 2024 focusing on a disciple's journey. And we asked the question, what does it look like for you and I to follow Jesus as one of his apprentices faithfully and successfully over time? Like, how do we do this for the long haul? And that's where we spent the bulk of the end of 2024. And what we said that following Jesus successfully, it's never like linear. Following Jesus is never like just getting from point A to point B. We said it's more like this. It's more like being in a boat on a winding river where there are many twists and turns. Many ups and downs, many successes and failures. We said that following Jesus, what you will experience is lots of ordinary days on the boat with Jesus. That's just kind of how life is. But the key for anyone who wants to be successful in this spiritual journey and in journeying with Jesus, then the key, I absolutely believe that the key is staying in the boat and being faithful. It's just staying in the boat and being faithful and to keep faithfully following Jesus. And I am convinced if you and I do that, that is how we will experience what Google is talking about here, a breakout in whatever area of your life you desire success in comparison to whatever has been your previous, whatever's come before, all of your previous efforts. Real quick, Luke tells a story of Jesus when he calls his first apprentices or first followers. And in Luke's telling of this story, it's in Luke chapter 5. What I like about this short story, it's a bit of a breakout story. And I want to see if you can find the breakout. Can you find the success where there was previously failure, or where there were efforts, it just wasn't working out, and then all of a sudden there's success? Here's Luke 5, verse 1. One day, as Jesus was standing by the lake of Gennesaret, the people were crowding around him and listening to the word of God. He saw at the water's edge 2 boats left there by the fishermen who were washing their nets. He got into one of the boats, the one belonging to Simon, and asked him to put out a little from shore. Then he sat down and taught the people from the boat. When he had finished speaking, he said to Simon, "Put out into deep water and let down the nets for a catch." Simon answered, "Master, we've worked hard all night and we haven't caught anything. But because you say so, I will let down the nets." And when they had done so, they caught such large numbers of fish that their nets began to break. And so they signaled to their partners in the other boat to come and to help them. And they came and they filled both boats so full they began to sink. And when Simon Peter saw this, he fell at Jesus' knees and said, "Go away from me, Lord, I'm a sinful man." For he and all of his companions were astonished at the catch of fish they had taken. And so were James and John, the sons of Zebedee, Simon's partners. Then Jesus said to Simon, "Don't be afraid. From now on you will fish for people." And so they pulled their boats up on the shore, left everything, and followed him. Did you catch the breakout? Did you catch the sudden and rather unexpected success that these boys have? Luke sets up the story. He's got Jesus getting into some unnamed person's boat. We don't even know whose boat it is. Jesus is just wanting to teach the crowds, and so he gets into a fishing boat, and he's teaching the crowds. And it says, while some of the fishermen were washing their nets, and what we soon find out is they were washing nets that had been complete failures the night before, right? They are washing fishing nets that have caught what? No fish, which is, like, spoiler alert, what they're supposed to be good at, right? If you are a fisherman on the Sea of Galilee, the one thing you should be an expert at and really good at is what? Catching fish. And they're washing nets, and we find out later, having caught nothing. And so Jesus tells the one, Simon, whose boat he apparently gets into, he says, "Put out into deep water and let down the nets for a catch." And after confessing how futile his efforts have been, which is what Simon does immediately, he talks about, "We've caught nothing. We were out here all night. We didn't catch a thing." Simon simply does what Jesus asks him to do, and I can think of no other theological reason or practical reason other than as a what? Just like pure obedience. The rabbi said, what does a rabbi, and by the way, what does a rabbi know about fishing? Nothing, supposedly. They know about Torah. They teach Torah. And rabbi is telling fishermen, like, hey, it's like me going into the cockpit of a 747 and saying, "Hey, you know what? You should try adding a little bit more thruster." And then when we take off, they're like, "What? Well, who are you?" "I'm pastor from Glendora. I thought you could use a little advice on flying this strange machine." You get the irony here, right? And he says, why? "Because you say so, I will let down the nets." I don't know. You know nothing about fishing, but you're okay. I'll do it. Simple obedience. And suddenly, after that one act of obedience, how many times had Simon Peter put down his nets to catch fish? How many ordinary days of just going out on a boat and throwing the net into this stinking water and waiting for fish? We're talking umpteen amounts of time he's done this. But that one time, all of a sudden, he has a what? There's a breakout. A breakout of fishing success. Suddenly, it says, unexpectedly, quite unexpectedly, Simon experiences a breakout. Literally, it says instantaneously there is overwhelming success. So much success that it begins to rip the failed nets that they were washing 10 minutes prior. The nets start to rip. So much success that it begins to literally, quite literally, sink their business. Their business is sinking with success. Do you catch the irony here? And they have to call in others. And I think this breakout moment does two things for Simon that need to happen if Simon is going to successfully, over the long haul, follow Jesus to the end. The first thing I think that has to happen, number one, it exposes Simon's own limitations and weaknesses, doesn't it? That's the first thing it does. The first thing, what's Simon's immediate knee-jerk reaction? Go away from me, Rabbi. I'm a sinful man. I am so weak. I am so powerless. He confesses he's a sinful man. Apart from you, apparently, I can't even catch fish. But man, you're really good at it. And so he acknowledges his own weakness. And then number two, what does it do? It opens him up then. That's the key to opening him up to the unlimited possibilities and power with this rabbi. The possibilities are endless. The power is a kind of power that you never see coming, he says. If he is willing to follow Jesus and just trust him and do whatever Jesus says, put your net down, try it again, but I failed, try it again, you'll have a breakout. And Jesus says, don't be afraid, right? From now on, you'll fish for people. There's even a higher calling for you, Peter, a higher. And what Jesus is inviting Simon on in this moment, Jesus is inviting Simon to go on a journey with him, and it's going to involve breakouts. One after another in Simon's life. And the key for Simon, if he's going to go to the end, is to stay in the boat with Jesus and just simply do the next thing he asks you to do. I think that's the word for us today. Stay in the boat, do the next thing he asks you to do. I think that's the key, not just for Simon. I think that's the key for any one of us in this room today, or going on Google and searching for success, searching for meaning, searching for something that what we want to do to be meaningful and significant. For any who desire to break out of wherever we might feel stuck, to break out of wherever we feel like, but 2024 was an objective failure in that area of my life. And I continue to fail these first 5 days of 2025 in that area of my, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. Wherever there's disappointment, stay in the boat with Jesus and obediently do whatever he tells you to do. And just keep doing it, and keep doing it, and keep getting up, and keep doing the stuff, and keep doing it over and over until you experience what? There'll be a breakout. Somewhere, and I don't know. It may be tomorrow, it may be June 4th. I don't know when. But if you're faithful, that's what the scripture teaches me. For any who desire, stay in the boat. Continue to faithfully follow Jesus into this new year. And if he says, let down your nets again, then what? Let them down again. Do what he says. In other words, keep at it. Be faithful in the ordinary days. Last fall, when we started this kind of discipleship journey with practicing the way that so many of you engaged with, so many of you told us last fall that you felt stuck spiritually. You're like, I just felt like I'm stuck. I don't even know what to do next. I've been at this for years, decades, some of you. And you told us, I feel like I've just kind of plateaued spiritually. Like, I'm not going down, but I'm not going up. I just feel stuck. I feel like I've, like I said, plateaued. I don't even know what to do next. What you were really saying is you needed a what? You needed a breakout spiritually. You needed some sudden success. You needed to know where to go. And so many of you, you started on that journey, didn't you? Here's what I want to say. If you've already started, keep doing the stuff. I know it's been a few weeks since we've met together. Keep doing the stuff. All of that work that we did over the fall, get on the pommel horse again. If you've fallen off, get back up on the pommel horse again. Get on the keyboard again. Go back to practicing. Whatever it is, whatever you felt like, this is an area I stepped forward in, I want to encourage you, do it again and again and again. And if you're like, what did you do last fall? This is my first, what was all that? We're going to, like Abigail said, cast some vision the next few weeks, and we're starting all that up again in February. And we're going to give everybody an opportunity once again to get in on that and to say, I feel stuck, I feel plateaued, I feel like I don't know what to do. You know what we're going to do? We're going to let down the nets again. We're going to put the nets back in the water again, because that's what we hear the rabbi saying to do. Keep doing the stuff. Years later, I'll end here. Has this been helpful? This is Google. Google took us here, so you cannot blame me. If you're like, I'm not into that whole breakout thing, blame the algorithm. Don't blame me. I'm just going with whatever the algorithm told me to do today. Years later, if you follow Peter's life, you know, if you've read the Gospels, I just read the beginning of the Gospel. You read to the end, you get to the very last chapter of the very last Gospel, which is John 21. And you get to the last chapter of the last Gospel, and that same failed fisherman is doing what? Failing at fishing again. You get the irony here. You get to the very end. He's followed Jesus with some success and a lot of failure for a few years. And Jesus has been crucified and resurrected. And where do we find Simon Peter? He's out fishing again. And he's bad at it, which tells you what? Maybe he should have picked a different career. Like, he's just a terrible, every time we read about Simon, he's like a bad fisherman. And in John 21, you get this account, post-resurrection, where he's fishing again, and he's catching nothing. And then Jesus shows up on the shore, John 1:26. Look what Jesus says. He said, he being Jesus, hey, throw your net on the right side of the boat, and you'll find some. The rabbi shows up again, who knows nothing about fishing. And he's like, you've been fishing on the left side. Try the right side. And what does Simon do? It says, when they did, which means they were just simply what? Obedient. Okay. Oh my goodness. They had another what? Another fishing breakout. Another success, instantaneous success. They were unable to haul in the net because of the large number of fish. Same thing. And maybe that's where your breakout, for some of us in the room today, that's where your breakout's going to come this year. You got to do it differently. You've been doing the same thing, expecting different results, and the definition of that is what? That's insanity. You've been fishing on the one, you've been doing the same thing over. Why am I not growing spiritually? Why does God feel so? Why? I'm just doing the same. I'm just fishing as I've always. Maybe the word of the Lord for you today is you got to try it differently this year. Throw it on the other side of the boat. What do you got to lose? May as well. Try it differently this year. And so whatever that could be, I don't know what that could be for you. Next month, you're like, I don't like those. Join a group. What do you got to lose? We have amazing dinners together, don't we? Monday night group, we eat like kings and queens together. Amazing. Join a Practicing the Way group in February. You're like, I don't know, I didn't work out let it down again. Didn't work out last fall. Throw the net in again. Try the other side of the boat. Volunteer. Start practicing generosity. Get up 10 minutes earlier. Delete the stinking app. Get it off your phone. You're like, why is this suck so much of my time? Hit delete. You can do that and kill the algorithm. You know that, don't you? You can literally kill the thing. And you're like, do it. Start praying together. Whatever it is, throw it on the other side of the boat. I believe that's the word of the Lord for us today. So we're going to close with communion. I know we've gone a little long. Is that okay? We've gone a little long, but Rainier's going to come back, and we're going to begin 2025 by receiving communion together from the one who said, "Put your net down again," and the one who said, "Hey, try the other side of the boat." That same one offers us his body and his blood. And we can come in our weakness and in our failure and in our, I didn't work last year and I'm not going to experience, and we can say, and that's where we got to begin, right? And we can say, but with your strength and through your strength, Jesus, this year, I'm going to break out of that. I can experience a breakout. And so maybe as we come to the table today, where might you be desiring a breakout this year? You're like, this is it. This is going to be my year. Any area of your life where you're like, it is previously not worked out. Perfect. Go with that one. Go with the area of your life that's a mess, that's like total failure, not working out. Let's go with that one, all right? And let's say this year, even if there's been disappointment, you're like, I would love to see some unexpected success. And I'll be honest, it would be unexpected. That relationship, that was so unexpected. I didn't see it coming. I didn't know how that was going to happen. Let's go with those. Let's go with the big things, right? Let's not go with the little ones. Let's go with the big ones and say, let's believe, like Abigail said, in a big God in the beginning who knows us, who loves us. What would it look like for you this year to let your net down again, or throw it on the other side of the boat? I'm going to pray, and then we're going to worship. And when you're ready, if you're new here, a couple of our pastors will be up here. We'll serve you the bread. Represents the body of Jesus. We just dip it in one of these cups, representing the blood of Jesus. And we'll start our 2025 together that way. So Holy Spirit, I ask you for some breakouts in this room this year. That a year from now, the testimony of people in this room would be, I didn't see it coming, but it came. I didn't see it. He was talking about that, and he said a dream, and I thought, never this. I'm always going to be like that. We're always going to be like that. That's never going to change. I couldn't do that. Lord, I pray for some breakouts this year. Unexpected success for people who feel stuck today, people who don't know what to do in any area of their life. It all comes back to you. And so I thank you that you are the one who meets us in our failure and in our disappointment and says, let's try it again. Put down the net again. Try the other side of the boat. And so I pray that you'd start quickening to our minds what we need to do differently this year, where we need to trust you, simply trust you. So as we receive this bread as your body, as we dip it into this cup as your blood, we confess we are powerless and we are weak without you. We need your power, your unlimited power to break us out of wherever we feel stuck this year. And so we do this in faith today, and we say, come Holy Spirit, and do in us what we never thought possible. In Jesus' name, amen.